Alright, what you're looking at is a map of a hate map by the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's basically a detailed hate map that is all around the country. As you can see, most of it, probably 85% of it is east, northeast, midwest, and down south, of course. But in my opinion, there's a major problem with the Poverty Law Center site. Um, they're often quoted and cited, giving various statistics, and I will admit they do a decent, probably good, maybe even great job at times of exposing white supremacists. But we're going to talk about black hate groups, and this is something, in my opinion, I don't really feel that there can be a such thing as a black hate group in the way that they describe. Well, you'll see how they describe the black hate groups and their reason for labeling them, that it doesn't really add up. It doesn't make sense. By classifying certain pro-black groups as hate groups, the Poverty Law Center is ignoring the 400 plus years of oppression through unsympathetic lenses. To guilt-shame black people who choose to separate from the oppressor's offspring also exposes the lack of historical understanding of how slavery hundreds of years ago is largely responsible for our communities today, via slave codes, Jim Crow laws, etc., etc. Furthermore, it ignores the efforts from J. Edgar Hoover and those responsible for destroying the Black Wall Street in Oklahoma and other attempts by black people to organize and become self-sufficient. It ignores the drugs that were purposefully placed in our community by design to destroy the family structure that remains fragmented today. With all this being considered, who in their right mind would blame any race of people wanting to practice segregation and only procreate with their own race? With the Tuskegee experiment and other diseases and sterilization methods aimed at the black community, it seems ludicrous to shame these people for wanting to oppose racial intermarriage. You state that these hate groups practice, or you state that this group in general, the black separatists, as you call them, that they practice anti-Semitism, oppose racial marriage or oppose racial intermarriage, and believe that they are the chosen people of God. But don't the Jews believe they are the chosen people of God as well? So by following that logic, it's safe to say that they want to oppose racial intermarriage as well, which is fine. Next, your site mentions that these groups want separate institutions or even a separate nation. This statement unfortunately exposes the plagiarism and whitewashing of history and the destruction of black culture. How can you tell a group of people who were robbed of their language, who are only told that they started as slaves in school books, where the word slave is being replaced with indentured servant, to not form their own identity? For a group that does a great job exposing white supremacists, it is confusing in the same breath to say that black hate groups even exist. For if one truly understands white supremacy, it should come as no surprise for black people to want to be excluded from a system that never cared for them. Unless you're advocating that we continue to take police brutality, we continue to get injustice from the justice system in the courtrooms and different things like that, unless you want us to be gluttony for punishment, it doesn't really make sense. The very fact that your group exists and that the majority of hate groups are white supremacists on your own page, even after 400 years, shows that there is still much more work to be done. White people make up the majority of this population and have failed to hold white supremacists accountable for over 400 years. If I remember correctly, the black community tried integration. How did that work out? Black self-reliance, our self-confidence, and black businesses declined at a rapid rate. In conclusion, towards the end of his life, Martin Luther King made a stunning statement. The Let's All Hold Hands and Pray preacher from Georgia feared that he had led his people into a burning house. Mr. King had traveled the country from Chicago to Mississippi marching and protesting. He was even stabbed by a black woman. However, he still took a mental note that while there may be some whites who protest with black people, there is a majority of them who are turning a blind eye. However, he still took a mental note that while there may be some whites who protest with us, there is still a majority of them turning a blind eye who don't care about racism. Lastly, the great Malcolm X said that the biggest racists are the everyday passive whites, not the swastika-wearing, tattooed white men, but the passive whites that go unnoticed on a daily basis, who probably teach our kids in the schools you want us to stay in. After 400 years of white oppression, not only in America but globally, after dealing with gentrification, post-integration, and schools being poorly funded, and those who have sworn to protect us actually harming us, I think we have more than earned our right to segregate if we want to.